Talking about the disease of shirk that prevents the heart from achieving the state of a sound heart, which is known as qalbun salim in Arabic. Ibn al-Qayyim Rahimahullah explains in his book that the fundamental issue is that the one who commits shirk is doing the ugliest and utmost unjust act of likening the Creator, resembling the Creator with the creation, which is against the sound intellect and the uncorrupted natural disposition of the humans. The human beings are created upon a natural understanding, a natural disposition, which we call fitrah. So it is against that to liken the Creator with the creation. Now, the fact that Allah alone is the Creator, the one who gives and the one who withholds, and none has a say or share in His dominion. And even then, there are people whose heart, expectations, hope, trust, and dependence is upon the creation as opposed to the Creator. So they are giving what is the right of Allah to His creation. The creation who is not even able to benefit himself or herself without Allah's permission. So how can that weak, humble creation help someone else without the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? He explains, Ibn al-Qayyim Rahimahullah, he explains in his book that Allah alone is the one who gives, and if He gives something, no one can prevent it. And if He prevents something, then no one can give. Likewise, from the rights of Allah, the one who is the true deity is servitude, which stands, the notion of servitude, the notion of being a slave of Lord, the notion of being a slave of Allah, it stands on two pillars, which are A, utmost humility, and B, utmost love. And the ranks of a servant increases or decreases based on his or her level on these two pillars. So the more he or she loves Allah, the higher the rank is. The more he or she humbles and humiliates and submits to Allah, the higher his or her rank is. If we really want to live in the paradise of this world, we have to consistently check, who do we have utmost love for? Who do we have utmost submission for? Who do we have utmost trust for, humility for, fear of, and who do we have an utmost dependence and trust upon? Let the condition of our heart in and outside of salah, the prayers, show us where do we stand. Let us purify ourselves by dua, reflection on who Allah is, and remembering Allah, especially using, reading, and reflecting upon the words of Allah in His book, the Quran. Hence, if we were to reflect with Allah being so merciful, why is this sin not forgiven? Because it is because of the severity of this injustice, and it being so against the sound intellect and natural disposition, that one who lives and dies on this sin, on this disease, is not deserving of the forgiveness of Allah, even with Allah being the most merciful. Another way to look at it is that if you were to consider any worldly institution, whether it be an academic institution, a professional institution, a commercial business institution, or an entity, there are certain foundational, fundamental elements, certain foundational skills, ethics, or code of conduct that people in that organization follow. Right? So you would have a people that would vary in their expertise and their experience and their contributions, and they would have different ranks within the institution, within the organization. But there are certain fundamental ethics, certain fundamental code of conduct, skills, approach, and common agreements. Okay? Now, if you don't have those, then those people really don't belong to that institution. Right? So if you have an institution of lawyers, right, and they don't even believe in the law, right? How can those lawyers be part of an institution that is teaching a certain law? Because what would end up happening is that their presence itself would corrupt the institution. Likewise, there are certain people who do not have the basic elements to be in the paradise of Allah, to be among the friends of Allah, to be among those who will be entering the paradise. So it's something to think about. To imagine, the purer your heart becomes, the more your heart connect with the love of Allah, the more your heart depend upon Allah, the really unbreakable you become with what happens to you in this world, with how people treat you, with how people respect you, with how much people love you, with how much people repay you. You really become a true monotheistic servant of Allah. So this is something that we should be doing regular checkups on. So I would like to end by sharing this verse from the Kitab, the Book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الله نور السماوات والأرض مثل نوره كمشكاة فيها مصباح المصباح في زجاجة الزجاجة كأنها كوكب دري يوقد من شجرة مباركة زيتونة لا شرقية ولا غربية يكاد زيتها يضيء ولو لم تمسسه نار نور على نور يهدي الله لنوره من يشاء ويضرب الله الأمثال للناس والله بكل شيء عليم. Which means Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. The example of His light is like the niche within which is a lamp. Okay, so we're talking about the light, which is the guidance here as one of the explanation, and the niche is talking about the heart of the believer. The lamp is within a glass, the glass as if it were a purely white star lit from the oil of a blessed olive tree, neither of the east nor of the west, whose oil would almost glow, even if untouched by the fire, light upon light. So let me explain what is going on, right? So you have a heart of the believer, right? That itself has its own fitrah, right? Which has a natural disposition of understanding of there being one creator, one perfect being, the one who is completely in charge, the one who completely deserves utmost love and humility and submission. Right? Now the details of it and a detailed understanding of it comes from that external source, which is the wahi, the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as instructed in His book and the explanation by the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that is like the oil. So that oil itself is glowing, right? But when it combines with the flame in the heart, then you get light upon light. So the fitrah, and then on top of it, you have the knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then at the end it says, look, Allah guides to His light whom He wills. And that is a very important thing. And that again reminds us and creates that we are dependent on Allah. That if He were not to choose us for whatever reason that He knows from His wisdom, we would never be guided. So one of the things to be guided and to remain consistent upon guided and to increase in our guidance is for us to depend on Allah and to consistently beg Him and ask Him for that. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends this verse, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and Allah presents examples for the people, and Allah is knowing of all things. So Allah is aware of our sincerity if we really and truly want to know the truth and want to follow the deen of Allah, or if you're trying to find arguments in something that we already believe in. Okay, so now finally, as we talked about communication as the key concept or the key theme or the key breakthrough idea of this episode, think about this. One of the most important things that we can do in our daily life is our communication with Allah. And the 5 obligatory instances of that are the 5 obligatory salah, the 5 obligatory prayers. So this is an especially beneficial time for us to think about who we are, where our heart is attached, and to take that heart and to put it and connect it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And those 5 prayers during the day are an excellent opportunity to connect, to train, and to condition ourselves, and to examine our heart, and to ask Allah for help in fixing our connection in our prayers with